How you think is the most important thing about you.
Okay, welcome to F1 session 13. In this session, we're going to be talking about how to overcome evil with good. Very interesting phrase there. Hopefully you've already spent a little time talking about in your group about how does that happen? How do you overcome evil with good? It's interesting. Another way to say this is, how do we destroy the love of evil? How do we destroy that desire inside of us to continue to move in that direction, even though we know that we shouldn't be there? We know that we shouldn't touch that, we shouldn't do that, we shouldn't act that way, but we continue to slide in that direction. How do we overcome that? How do we stop that? Man, guys, if you're like me, you've probably tried everything. You've probably been at this for a long time. For some reason, we find ourselves like Peter, I keep doing the things I don't want to do, and the things I don't want to do, I do. The things I do want to do, I don't do. Oh man, how am I going to get through this? And we've tried so many things. We've tried to double our efforts. We've tried to set goals. We've tried to get accountability groups. We've tried to do everything possible. And yet we still find that there's this tendency for us to lean and tendency for us to fall into this place of continuing in this action of evil things in our life. Oh, Lord, how do we get over that? Well, welcome. This session is how to overcome evil, how to break the love of evil and destroy it forever. Okay? Now, eventually, Jesus is going to be doing this in the entire world. But how are we supposed to do it today? How are we supposed to walk through that and navigate through those difficulties today? Am I doomed to just having to wait until Jesus comes back before I can overcome evil? No, that's not the truth. The truth is that you can have it today. And in this session, we're going to be talking about how we overcome evil with good. Now, if this has been a struggle that you've had for a long time, I'm getting ready to give you some keys, all right? I'm getting ready to give you the word of life. I'm getting ready to give you a revelation that will help you break free from that struggle that you've had, okay? Now, the chances are really good you probably haven't heard this word before. Chances are pretty good this is going to be something new. Chances are pretty good you have heard this, but now I am going to say this. And it may come across to you as, whoa, Clay, slow down. I don't know if that's true. I think I'm going to continue doing what I've been doing. Even though, if you're like me, even though it hasn't been working very good, I'm going to stay with it because it's familiar to me. But I want to give you some new revelation. So I just ask, even if you need to right now, just say, Lord, I want to be open to this. I want you to expand and increase my understanding of how much you love me and how much you are in control of everything. And how much Jeremiah 29:11 is true in my life. That you have set me in motion. That you have a future for me of hope and of blessing. Okay? So let's dive into this thing. If you need to stop the DVD at some point, at any point, and discuss, talk, take a breath, go get a drink, come back, that'll be fine. Because we're getting ready to dive into some stuff I think you're really going to enjoy. Just so you know, it took me about 1.5 years to get to a place where I could embrace this principle of the kingdom. Okay, it wasn't easy for me. It took a while. I didn't just read it and go, oh, that's cool. I think the Lord really drew me into a season in my life where I would know this information. Not just book information, not just intellectually know it, but like it talks about in the Bible, when you know something in the Bible, you know it through experience. So I think the Lord wanted me to walk through the process of getting to a place where I knew this through experience. So I don't have any pretension in thinking that just because you hear it come out of my mouth, you're going to go, oh, well, it all makes so much sense. Because you may need to go through a period of time as well in getting to a place where you know this through experience. So it might take a little bit more than just a 30-minute DVD session. All right, so let's dive into this thing. We're going to start out with, I want to give you a picture here, okay? Jesus came and he spoke into the people in parables. All right, you guys know the parables, you've heard them before. The question is, and the same question the disciples had to Jesus, why did Jesus use parables? Why didn't he just speak plainly to the people? Does anybody know the answer? If you know it, go ahead and speak up really quick. All right, why did Jesus use parables? You know, he actually gave the disciples the answer to this question. Let's take a look at it really quick. It's in the book of Matthew, chapter 13, and it's in verse 10. The disciples came to him. This is after Jesus had given the parable of the sower, all right? And sower went out to sow his seeds, and this is a little bit later, and the disciples come and go, okay, Jesus, what's up with the parables, all right? We don't get what the heck are you talking about. Why don't you just come and speak plainly to the folks? And this is what Jesus says here. He said, the knowledge of the secrets of the kingdom of heaven has been given to you, but not to them. So what he's saying here is, through the parables, he is able to give this knowledge of the kingdom of heaven. Okay? So there it's like the parables are a treasure chest. Okay? So he is coming, he's saying, I am able to bring the treasures of the kingdom of heaven by using parables. So for you and I, that means with every single parable, we've got a full-on treasure chest of knowledge of the depths of the kingdom of heaven. Okay, now you may have heard the parables before, and you might have gotten just that, like me, just kind of gotten the surface understanding of, oh, that's neat, and we understand it pretty quick now. But did you know that you can keep going with those parables and go deeper, and go deeper, and go deeper, and go deeper, and deeper, and deeper into each of these parables, and continue to draw new and new living water out of every single one of them? Okay? Now there's going to be a connection as we walk through this. There's going to be a connection between the parables, which are the chest, and the treasure that's inside. Okay? The treasure that's inside simply comes from 1 Corinthians chapter 12. These are the spiritual gifts found in 1 Corinthians chapter 12. There's 9 different spiritual gifts. The gifts of knowledge, the gifts of wisdom, the gift of healing, miracles, speaking in tongues, interpreting tongues, discerning of spirits. I don't remember if I've done all 9 of them, okay? But those are the gifts that we're talking about. Those are the treasures that are found within each of these parables. And then what the Lord does also is He gives us keys. There are keys that unlock each one of these 9 spiritual gifts. And there are 9 different keys. Okay? Just like there are 9 gifts, there are 9 keys. And these 9 keys are found in the Beatitudes. Beatitudes. Now in this session, here in F1, in this session, we're only going to be able to go over one key and one of the spiritual gifts, okay, of how to unlock, how to overcome evil with good, all right? But if you continue moving through your discipleship training, in F5, we actually dive into all 9 and discover which one to use in different circumstances. But just a little teaser on that, just so you know, as we grow in our understanding of how to live daily in our life, really, life becomes a simple matter of choices of which key, which beatitude to use in which situation that we're in life. It's no longer, oh no, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? The will of God will come through in keys that will unlock treasures for you to function in every situation in your life. And chances are really, really good that it's going to be in one of those areas, one of those 9 different treasures that the Lord's going to ask you to use. And it's going to be one of these kingdom principles, one of these kingdom attitudes that He's going to want you to apply in every situation. Whether it be a very difficult situation that you're going through in relationship or health or in your work life, or whether it be a wonderful thing that you're going through and just questions that you have for the Lord as you walk through. He will give you the key or the kingdom attitude to function in so that you will be able to unlock those treasures in your life. Okay, so that's kind of the whole idea there. But it all begins with this parable of the weeds. And it's a parable you've heard before. I am going to read it here out of Matthew chapter 13. Jesus told them another parable. Another parable. He said, "The kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while everyone was sleeping," interesting point, "his enemy," interesting point, "came and sowed weeds among the wheat," interesting point, "and went away." Interesting point. Okay, we're not going to get into these. They're just things to talk about later. All right. "When the wheat sprouted and formed heads, then the weeds also appeared. And the owner's servants came to him and said, 'Sir, didn't you sow good seed in your field?' Interesting point. 'Where then did the weeds come from?' Interesting point. 'An enemy did this.' Interesting point," he replied. The servants asked him, "Do you want us to go and pull them up?" He says, "No, because while you are pulling up the weeds, you may root up the wheat with them. Let both of them grow together until harvest. At that time I will tell the harvesters, first collect the weeds and tie them in bundles to be burned, and then gather the wheat and bring it into my barn." Okay? So, it's interesting here, just the information that's coming across. There's a lot of things that we could get into. There's several different directions and a lot of treasure here, but we're going to try to focus on one thing. The verse that we're covering in this session is from your memory verse, Romans chapter 12, verse 21. "Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good." Man, how does that work? Don't be overcome by evil. What does that look like, to be overcome by evil? I think it has something to do with me feeling like I can't do anything with it. I'm overcome by it, and it takes over. And I can never get on the other side of it. Have you ever felt that way before? Have you ever felt like there's something in your life that you just can't get a handle on? You can't quit doing it, or you can't quit not doing it, type of thing? It can be so difficult. We can feel like it has won. It's won the battle. And every time we come up against it, we just feel like, oh, I've lost again. I've been overcome by evil. You guys, this is the attitude that Paul is getting at here. It's the attitude. He's saying, no. Don't get overcome by evil. And he's not talking about, he's not saying don't do that anymore. He's saying don't think like that anymore. Don't think like you have been overcome by evil. But think like this: overcome evil with good. And this is what we're going to be diving into in this session. So, this parable of the weeds is a parable that contains the secrets of how to overcome evil by winning it to the kingdom of God. But what I'm going to continue to come back to over and over again is the only way they were able to get to the place where they could see the good and the evil in the fruit was once both of them had grown to a place where they had ripened, where they had grown up and actually began producing fruit. We'll get into that here in just a moment. But the real question for you here is, what is the difference, or what is the relationship between light and darkness, good and evil here? You know, we have several verses that are mentioned here, and I encourage you, if you haven't already, to take a moment and look these verses up, because it's important that we understand what's going on, the relationship between good and bad and light and dark. Okay? As you guys know, in the beginning, God created the heaven and earth, all right? And what did God say? The first thing He said, let there be light, right? Let there be light. And when God said, let there be light, what happened to the darkness? The darkness left. There was no battle between darkness and light. You and I both know that light swallows up darkness. I mean, if I walk into a room and it's dark in the room, all I need to do is flip on the light, all right? Or cut on the light, as some of us say. We turn on the light and darkness goes away. It doesn't just go away a little bit, it goes all away. All right? You don't have to open up the window and try to push darkness out and then shut it really quick so it doesn't come back in. If you turn on the light, darkness goes away. So the relationship here is wherever there is light, there is no darkness. John talks quite a bit about this as well, where it says, the light shines in the darkness, and darkness does not overcome it. Darkness cannot swallow up life. Now, it's important for us to catch this, okay? Because we need to understand that we don't need to be afraid that darkness is going to win, that darkness is going to overcome light. It is impossible for that to happen. The light will always overcome darkness. So I simply don't need to be afraid that darkness is going to overcome light. It just doesn't happen. God is going to win here, all right? There's no need for me to think and to have this idea that light and darkness are like battling it out and oh my gosh, I hope that light wins. I hope that light doesn't get overtaken by the darkness. I hope that darkness doesn't win. You know, a lot of times I can get that way as I watch the news on TV and start wringing my hands at all the bad things that are going on. Oh no, what's going to happen? The world's going to hell and all this kind of stuff. And what's going to happen if it goes to hell? Everything, all this stuff. Don't worry. Remember, we have this principle that as darkness rises, what's rising with it? Light is rising at the same time. So even though right now there is a lot that's showing up in the news about darkness and about difficulty and struggle and pain and hurt and wars and things like that going on around the world, we can be assured that at the same time, light is growing at the very same time and at the same amount. And darkness will never overcome. It's important for us to grab hold of this because I'm getting ready to throw something out to you and it's going to scare you. It's going to make you feel like, whoa, no, we can't do that because then darkness will overcome. No, it won't. Darkness cannot overcome light. All right? Darkness cannot overcome light. But if I'm not careful, I'll be like the servants and I'll come to the Lord and I'll say, Lord, don't you want me to pull up all of this darkness in my life right now? And He's going, no. The plan here is to allow them to grow up together. All right? As the good grows, so also will the negative grow in my life. That's an important principle to catch there, that they will grow together. Now again, I think for most of my life, I was taught, no, we want to get rid of the bad, only have the good. Get rid of the bad, only have the good. And so I would start to try to pull up all of the bad. But unfortunately, that just led me to frustration and fear and fantasy. And then all of a sudden, fruit would show up in my life that would be negative fruit. And I go, oh, I thought I got rid of that. So there's a very important concept for us to get here, is that darkness will never overcome light. And the principle here of this parable here, the principle of the treasure chest is that the farmer said, let them grow up together. And what we want to do is let them grow up together so that we will know. And it's important that we allow them to grow to a point so that we can see them for what they are. Okay? So where we're heading here is the spiritual gift that's inside is the gift of knowledge that we want. We want to be able to see these two fruits for what they are. Now again, knowledge isn't just intellectual understanding of what they might be, okay? Knowledge here through the Bible, every time we see the word K-N-O-W, it refers to knowledge through experience. And I think that's one of the things that's very unfortunate for a lot of us in the church today, is we have very little knowledge through experience. Our knowledge has come just through hearing a teaching or reading a book or taking notes somewhere. But we've lacked the knowledge of experience. And so we walk away saying we know, and yet our experience doesn't show that. We walk away with head knowledge that puffs up, that makes us think like we're going to be able to overcome because I've gained new information. And yet we get out in our life and we find that just because we know doesn't necessarily mean that we are able to overcome. Okay? So the answer to our dilemma here is not just more knowledge, but we need to have the knowledge of experience. 1 John talks quite a bit about knowing God, K-N-O-W. I encourage you, sometime during your time in the Word, here's a little exercise. Just go through the book of 1 John. It's not very long, all right? Just walk through the book of 1 John and underline, highlight, circle, however you want to identify the word K-N-O-W every time you see it. And then count how many times the word K-N-O-W is in 1 John. Every single time you read it, you can substitute in have knowledge by experience, or know by experience. Guys, I think you'll find between 60 and 80 times, depending upon your version, you'll find the word know in 1 John. It is important to know through experience the kingdom of God and who the King is. Not just from hearing, but through doing. Okay, so that's what we're getting at when we talk about this experience of how do we overcome evil with good? Well, first of all, we have to know how to do that. We have to know, we have to be able to discern the two. Now again, the workers in the field, they thought they could discern the difference at the very beginning. As soon as they popped up out of the ground, they thought that they could see the difference. But the farmer knew better. He said, no, they look too much alike. And if you go start to pull up everything you think is negative in the field right now, then you'll pull up some of the good as well. Don't worry though, I'm in control of this. I'm a good farmer. Let them grow up together. Now again, if you're a farmer, you know this is no way to plant a field. If there's weeds in the field, you know we can't do that. It'll destroy all this. But somehow in the kingdom of heaven, this is the principle. You have heard this, but I say this. Okay? The principle in the kingdom of heaven is, let them grow together. The parable, the treasure, the secret of the kingdom of heaven is, let them grow together. And once they have grown together to a certain point, then they will begin to reveal themselves through their fruit. And it's at that point that you will be able to tell the difference between what is good and what is evil. You will have the treasure of the gift of knowledge. You will know by experience what is producing good fruit and what is producing bad fruit. You won't just know because you're afraid. You won't just know because someone told you. You'll know because you have experienced the fruit in your life. Is it producing good fruit? Is it producing bad fruit? You guys, I've experienced this in my own life. Okay? This isn't just me talking here. I've experienced this in my own life where I thought a particular relationship was good. And I thought it'd be great. And my parents did everything they could to keep me from that. They tried to root out and pull that thing up and get that away from me. But dadgummit, I wasn't going to listen to anyone. I've told you some of my story about that. And it grew up, and it did grow and produce fruit of a divorce. It was very painful and very difficult. But I'll let you know, I learned. Through experience, I learned. And it was difficult, and all of a sudden, I began to recognize those symptoms of a dysfunctional relationship really quick. Okay? Just like it says here, let them both grow up together until harvest. It grew up. Now, there were many good things that happened there too. I learned a ton. But there was some negative fruit that grew up in my life too. And I've experienced this as well, just morally in my life. Having girlfriends and just going too far with a girlfriend and thinking, oh, this will be fine and this will be fine. And just expanding my boundaries. Remember we talked about that? Rather than staying within the boundaries, just pushing them out. Until eventually getting a phone call from a girlfriend and saying, hey, Clay, I'm pregnant. And me panicking, me freaking out, and actually encouraging her and pushing her towards an abortion. This is in my life. This is what that fruit brought in my life. And now I look back at that fruit and I go, yuck, man. I don't want that in my life. I still have times of thinking about those memories. And it brings me to a place, you've heard of weeping of gnashing of teeth. Why is there weeping and gnashing of teeth in hell? You guys, it's because of a remorse. It's because of a regret. I've been there before going, oh, I wish that wasn't part of my experience, but it is. So having walked out, and I'm not by any means thinking that everybody should go out there and have an abortion so they should know that it's wrong. But that's what happened in my life. The two grew up together, and I was able to see it for what it was. So even though I had this wonderful stuff going on in my life and I was loving the Lord, I truly, sincerely loved the Lord and wanted to become more and more like Him. But at the same time, I had this moral depravity and the place where I was just pushing boundaries morally, and eventually the two began to produce fruit. And the fruit over here was an abortion. A pregnant girlfriend in an inconvenient time and a push for an abortion. Oh, Lord. I saw it for what it was. And now I have the knowledge of that in my own personal life. And I can say, no, I want to cut that away and burn it. So as far as, boundaries and things like that, that's broken in my life. I'm not interested in pushing boundaries anymore because of that experience. Evil has been overcome by good. Therefore, to overcome evil with good, to destroy and break the love of good, two things have to happen. First of all, good needs to come to fruition. The good things in our life, the righteous fruit need to come to fruition in our life. But number two, what needs to happen is evil must ripen as well. Evil must come up, because it's only when they come to their harvest time that we're able to see them for what they are. And again, if you're like me, this is hard because I want to get rid of it as quick as possible. I only want there to be good. And for some reason, in the principle of the kingdom of heaven, the secrets of heaven, it's the opposite of this. They grow up together. My fear is, oh no, I can't let them grow up together because darkness may overcome the light and I'll end up being a bad person. And the Lord is saying, hey, no. That isn't how it works. Darkness never overcomes light. Light will always triumph. Now, understand that evil is not overcome by simply passive resistance and, oh, it's evil, I'm just going to let it be evil. No. There is always a heavenly force or a holy force or an attitude that we have toward evil. And this attitude that we have is where we get down into the beatitude, the way that we're going to think about evil in our life. Are we going to go out and root it up really quick? Or what is it going to take for me to allow them to grow together? Again, not unchecked. It's not that the workers in the field weren't aware of it out there. And again, the evil had an appointed time of judgment. Okay? It's important to know. The evil has an appointed time of judgment. It's not, oh, we're not going to deal with it. We're never going to deal with it. We're just going to let it do whatever it wants. It had an appointed time of judgment. It's just that the workers, or me, I want to do it a whole lot sooner than what the farmer wanted to do it. And this holy force is always generated by some type of sacrificial action. The question here is, will I be willing to sacrifice? Or am I going to be quicker to pick it up and control it myself, rather than being willing to sacrifice? Because this can get ugly, because, oh no, I don't want to see that in my life. I don't want to see that in my life. Lord, when are you going to root that out? Remember, my job in this whole thing is to respond to the Lord. It's His job to change. I choose, He changes. That's a good thing to write down if you haven't written it down before. I choose to submit to the will of the Father. He's the one that's responsible for change, not me. But again, if I'm not careful, anytime I see some darkness or something in my life, I want to go get it out really quick. And I want to be the one in charge of change. And if I could change this and change this and change this, then I could grow really quick. And I could be ahead of other people. And again, it becomes very self-motivated. And that's just inappropriate in the kingdom of heaven. So once again, we don't root out evil, we overcome it with good. To do this, we must resist our impulses, motivated out of self, to attack evil and to be stronger than evil. Again, how's that working for you? It's just, that's one way to do it, but it's just, it's not the kingdom principle of how the Lord intended us to respond to evil. It's about being an overcomer. We are not called to attack evil, but to overcome evil with good. So how do we handle or overcome evil with good? Once again, we use the key. We choose which beatitude to use. When it comes to evil and injustice, there is only one question for a child of heaven, and that is, which principle, which beatitude am I going to use? When I am confronted with evil in my life, Which beatitude am I to use? Am I to use the principle of being poor in spirit? Am I to use the principle of mourning? Am I to use the hunger and thirst for righteousness, being a peacemaker, forgiveness, being pure in heart? Which one do I use? Mercy? Well, the answer here is the beatitude is called meekness. Okay? Remember this one? Blessed are the meek. See, meekness, definition of meekness is simply not forcing anything to happen before it's time. It's not pushing something to happen. See, the opposite of meekness is, I'm going to control it. I'm going to make it happen right now because I want it to happen right now. You guys, that was a huge part of my personal testimony. I had a friend, Steve Youngblood, tell me one time, Clay, you love Jesus so much, but Clay, there is not a meek bone in your body. And I'm laughing and crying at the same time going, I know. I have all this zeal without maturity. And I just wanted to go attack everything. Dun-dun-dun, you know? I just wanted to go attack everything, and because I wanted to be the person that was better than anyone else. It was all self-motivated. Again, I feel like I was sincere before the Lord. Guys, I truly did love the Lord. I wasn't walking around thinking, oh, I'm going to be a better Christian because I want to be a better person. I really did want to love Jesus. I just didn't know how to get there. The only thing I knew how to do was strive for it and get there and kind of claw my way and be in control of it. I didn't know how to be meek. The Lord took me through about a 2-year season of learning meekness. Steve Youngblood helped me a lot with that. How to be weak in my leadership. How to not force anything. And out of that 2 years of my life came a ton of revelation and a ton of fruit now that I share with many leaders as I train them. But you guys, the key that we use to unlock the treasure of knowledge is meekness. Because it has to be knowledge of experience. But again, I just want it to be intellectual knowledge. I don't want to wait to experience the fruit of any evil in my life. I want to get rid of it really quick. You guys, that's not meekness. Blessed are the meek. And what is the blessing there? For they shall inherit the earth. Why do the meek get to inherit the earth? The reason why they do is because God knows they won't force anything. So He can give them things. He can give it to them knowing that they won't use it against other people. He can give them things knowing that they won't use it for their own gain. He can give them things knowing that they won't try to control it because they have been meeked. It's a term we use in the horse industry quite a bit. When you break a horse, you're actually meeking that horse. You're meeking the horse to the rider, to the master. See, before that, the horse wants to do anything he wants, and he'll kick and buck and do anything to get the master off of him because he doesn't want to be meeked. But once a horse is meeked, then you can direct him. Left, right, stop, go faster, slow down. And once a horse is meeked, now many people can ride that horse and not just the master. It's very interesting. But again, meekness will require a sacrificial action. See, I want to be the strong overcomer. And the Lord goes, no. Be the meek overcomer. Because there are benefits to being an overcomer. You've probably read them out of Revelation chapter 3. They're listed there in your notes. The benefits of being an overcomer. Now, the reason why it's important for them both to grow together until fruition is because the only way you can tell them apart is when they get to their fruit. You see, the wheat, when it's growing, it grows, looks exactly like the tares. But when the wheat comes to harvest time, the wheat is like this golden yellow, whereas the tare is black. So you can tell them apart. Yes, there are weeds in the garden that have come to fruition. Yes, that's true. But there is also wheat that is in the garden that has come to fruition. It doesn't mean there is less wheat because there were some weeds. Okay, did you hear that? It doesn't mean that just because there are some weeds in the garden that there is less good wheat. There is good wheat in the garden. But now I can see the bad seed in the garden. Now I can see the bad fruit for what it truly is. And yes, it will involve some weeping and gnashing of teeth. It will involve some regret. You see, the Lord, His plan never was for me to grow up and become older and grow into maturity and never have any regrets. That was never God's plan. I made that up somewhere along the way. I want to make sure I make all the right decisions so there's never any regrets. Well, man, that can cause you to live a very stressful life and a very fearful life. The Lord says, live. Live. Enjoy your day. Live and grow. I'll take care of this thing. Yes, there will be some weeds that will grow in your garden, but I'll take care of them in due time. But Clay, you live. I'm going to give you 2 instructions. Love God, love others. That's what I want you to do. Now, along the way, you're going to make some mistakes? Yes, you are. Are you going to make some mistakes that you're fully aware of? Yes, you are. And when those things grow up and come to fruition, you'll be able to see the full-on effect of those decisions and choices in your life. And then you'll be able to choose. And I guarantee, because your heart is for the Father, light will always win. You'll see darkness in your life and you'll go, I don't want that anymore. And darkness will be overcome by light. Evil will be overcome by good. The love of evil will be broken in your life because you'll see the fruit that it brings in your life. And you'll feel through experience, you'll feel the weeping and gnashing of teeth, the regret and the remorse. Oh, I never want that to happen again in my life. And you know, I don't want it to happen in your life either. So I'm going to continue to encourage you and love you and stay with you and inspire you and talk to you and help you come along because I don't want that to happen in your life the way that it happened in my life. Does that make sense? I hope it does. This can be a hard word because I'm talking about not just rooting out evil. And again, when I'm in this process of trying to be religious or trying to be in control or just trying to make sure I never mess up, this message doesn't fit at all. It can be very offensive. So you might have a few questions on that to talk about in your group, or just to go to the Holy Spirit and say, Lord, let me know more about this. I want to hear what Clay's talking about a little bit more, and I want to know your heart on this. Again, it took me about 18 months, 2 years to really grasp this concept, this principle, to really get into this parable, this treasure, and understand that it is this knowledge of experience that is unlocked through meekness that truly breaks the love of evil in my life. So, there you have it. I hope this makes some sense. And I imagine it brought up a lot of questions. Well, hey, I hope you enjoyed session 13. See you in 14.
How you think is the most important thing about you.